In this section, we're looking at solving equations that contain rational numbers. Rational numbers just include fractions and decimals. You have a little bit of both right here. So let's start off on Wednesday's assignment, which will be page 270, 1 through 12. So let's look at problem number 1. You've got y plus 3.5 equals 14.9. It's important that if it starts out with decimals like this one does, that you answer it as a decimal. If it starts off as a fraction, do not convert the fractions into decimals. You'll see one of those soon. Now, you know order of solutions for solving equations by now. You start with your variable side, and you start undoing anything added or subtracted to that side first. And then you'll undo anything multiplied or divided. Now, we're not going to get that deep into this, but right here you have y plus 3.5. So you're going to do the same thing as if that was a whole number. You're going to subtract whatever is there from both sides. So in this case, it's 3.5. Start at your equal sign. If you have 3.5 and you subtract 3.5, that cancels. So you're left with y on your left-hand side. Now do 14.9 minus 3.5. You can use a calculator if you want to, but it's probably quicker just to do it by hand. 9 minus 5 is 4. Put your decimal point in. 4 minus 3 is 1. And then bring your 1 down for your tens digit. And y is 11.4. Number 2. This one contains fractions. So you have 3 over 2 equals w plus 3 over 5. Now the variable side this time is on the right side, so start here. Since it's 3/5 added to w, what you're going to do, again, treat it just like it was a whole number, is the opposite. So subtract 3 over 5 from both sides. So what you're actually going to end up working with, excuse me, is 3 over 2 minus 3 over 5. And that equals w. Remember that you cannot add and subtract fractions until you have a common denominator. So you're looking for a multiple. And least common multiple is what you look for. A common multiple will do it, but the smaller, the better. Now the easiest multiple of 2 and 5 is going to be 10. So rewrite your problem with 10 as your denominators. And the way you get to 10 from the 2 is to multiply by 5. So you're going to multiply 3 by 5 to get your new top number, which is 15. And over here, the way you get from 5 to 10 is to multiply by 2. So you multiply that 3 by 2 to get your new top number, which is 6. And that will equal w. Since you have a common denominator, your answer will be over 10. So w equals 15 minus 6, which is 9, over 10. And that's your answer. So there's 1 and 2. Let me clear this page. We'll look at a couple of more. All right, number 3. The way this is different is you have mixed numbers that you have to contend with. It's going to be fairly commonplace in algebra. As soon as you see a mixed number, I want you just to think about converting that into an improper fraction. If you convert 4 and 1/6 into an improper fraction, what you do is 4 times 6, which is 24, and then add 1 to it, and put it back over 6. So 4 times 6 is 24, plus 1 is 25. So that's 25 over 6 equals r plus, and then this will be 6 times 4. And then add your numerator, which is also 1 on this one, and you put it over 4. So 6 times 4 is 25, is 24, plus 1 is 25, and this fraction is over 4. Now, just like the previous example where I subtracted 3/5 from both sides, this one I'm going to subtract 25 over 4 from both sides. And I need a common denominator. So let's go up here, give us some more room. I'm going to keep r on one side, which is right now on the left. I'm going to move to the right. And you have 25 over 6 minus 25 over 4. Try to find the least common multiple of 6 and 4. Uh, one won't go into the other, so the next one to try is do 6 times 2, which is 12, and 4 will go into 12. So you want to rewrite this with 12 as your denominator. 6 times 2 is 12, so you do times 2 on top also. So your new top number is 50. On your second fraction, 4 times 3 is 12, so do this times 3 and you get 75. Now since your answer will be over 12, just go ahead and put that in there. Now 50 minus 75 is going to be a negative number. Since you're taking away more than you started with, that's going to be negative 25 over 12. And you can't reduce that. You can convert it to a mixed number. You don't need to. It would be negative 2 and 1/12. But avoid that step. Now that's one way of solving that problem. I'm going to go back to, let's take care of all of this. And let's go back to, actually, let's get rid of this too. Go to this step. If you're feeling very comfortable with your knowledge of working with equations, here's the second way of doing this problem. 6 and 4 still have a common multiple of 12, so let's multiply both sides by 12. What you're setting up is a way to get rid of the fractions. If you don't like working with the fractions, then go this way. What you're going to do is 12 times 25 over 6. Now, I've been telling you that when you look at a fraction, the top means to multiply and the bottom means to divide. And what that means is that I can do 12 times 25 and get that answer. Or I can get 12 divided by 6 and get that answer. Now 12 divided by 6 is much easier to me. What I'm doing is a quick division problem. And since my larger number is a whole number, I'm going to go ahead and put that remainder on top. 12 divided by 6 is 2, and 2 times 25 is 50. And that's far simpler than doing 12 times 25 and then dividing that answer by 6. Over here I've got 12 times the sum of r plus 25 fourths. I can distribute this 12 to both of these terms. So 12 times r is 12r. Now 12 divided by 4 gives me 3. And 3 times 25 will give me 75. And that is no longer over 4, because that cancels. Now subtract 75 from both sides. And what I get is 12r equals, that should be a 12. 12r equals negative 25. Now you divide both sides by the number in front of r. So divide both by 12. And there's your answer, negative 25 over 12, so it's used a slightly different way. All right, let's look at a couple of the other problems that you might have trouble with. Look at number 7 next, and that is negative 8.4 equals negative 6f. Now this one is actually deceptive in how easy it is. You only have one step here, and you divide because this is f times negative 6. From the variable side, undo that by dividing by negative 6. So negative 6 divided by negative 6 gives you a positive 1f, which is what you're looking for when you're solving for your variable. Now you do negative 8.4 divided by negative 6. You know that a negative divided by a negative makes everything positive. So what you need to do is the 8.4 divided by 6 part, and you get 1.4. So go ahead and draw that in. You've solved it. So don't overthink those. That's probably going to be your biggest danger. Number 9 is similar to that. It just looks different. Negative 3.4 equals 0.4x. So here you're dividing by a number just like you are up here, but you're dividing by a number that's smaller than 1. So you're dividing both sides by 0.4. And when you look at this, you got negative 3.4 divided by zero point 0.4. So your answer is going to be negative. Use your calculator and do 3.4 divided by zero point 0.4, and you'll get 8.5 as your answer. All right, so use the skills that you've got to solve those. You know how to do the majority of those problems, so don't let that deceive you. Number 10. You have negative 1 over 6 times s equals 15. Now you have to really look and see what's going on with this one. You have s multiplied by negative 1/6. You can divide by negative 1/6. That's called a complex fraction, so that might be a little confusing. But what you want to do is to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of your coefficient. So I'm going to show that as parentheses to make that negative 6 over 1. When you multiply by a reciprocal, you've got 6 divided by 6, and you've got a negative times a negative, so you end up with just s. Now here you have 15 times negative 6. So 15 times 6 equals 90. And remember, that's going to be a negative 90 since that was a negative number. And so there's number 10. Number 11 and 12 are very similar to that. Let's look at 11. I'll let you do 12 on your own. Number 11 is 9 equals 3/4 g. You're going to do the same process on these. You're going to multiply by the reciprocal of the fraction in front of your variable. And there's your step that you take. Here's what I mean by that. You're going to multiply by 4 over 3 on both sides. Anytime you multiply by a reciprocal, what happens is the top and bottom numbers all cancel. That's why you do that, because you want g all by itself. Now it's easier to divide first. Do 9 divided by 3, which is 3. And then 3 times 4 is 12. And you're at your solution. So number 12, since it's 2/3 p equals negative 22, you're going to multiply both sides by 3 over 2. So a little hint to help you out there. So there's page 270, 1 through 12.